everybody. Happy Wednesday. I know I don't have a Lady Jeeper shirt on today. I have a Bucky shirt on today. So, hello. Welcome to our Wednesday Cup of Coffee with Kristin. We do this every Wednesday. Jump on. Oh, let me move my mic closer. Jump on every Wednesday. We take a coffee caffeine break, talk about our Jeep, and hang out for just a little bit of time. This is kind of our mid-week, mid-hump day, slump day, kind of we're gonna call it our ignite with caffeine and Jeeps. So normally when I jump on here, I jump in, I start teaching you one specific subject that has to do with your Jeep. So last week we talked about spring weather is here. It is Jeep season. We're celebrating that. But we talked about making sure you were ready for Jeep season and spring. The week before that, we talked about making sure your Jeep was ready. So if you missed those, don't worry. They're in here waiting for you. And keep an eye on your email. I just sent out our April newsletter for ladyjeepers.com. So you know everything we have going on. And it has links to our 2 Cup of Coffee with Kristin spring checklist for your Jeep and making sure that you are ready for Jeep season and the spring. So one is personal for you, one is for your Jeep. It's waiting in the April newsletter for you as well. If you don't get our newsletter, jump over when we're done to ladyjeepers.com. On our main homepage, scroll to the very bottom, jump in for our newsletter. We have started sending those out at the beginning of every month. It is so great because sometimes I get too much going on at Lady Jeepers. I am sure our ladies that have been here with us since the beginning are like, oh my gosh, yes. Sometimes I try to do too much. I'm owning it. I'm honest about it. So when there's a lot going on, our newsletter will have everything coming up for the entire month of April. It also lets you know what events we have coming up, but anything that's focused at Lady Jeepers for the month of April. You're going to notice I added another workshop. Woo! I am loving doing these workshops with you amazing ladies, jumping on live, spending some time together, really immersing and diving into Jeep education. So we have another one of those coming the end of April as well. We also have a new workshop that I announced and is in our April newsletter as well. And our mega giveaway event that we have going on, that is a huge thing. So everything you need to know is in our newsletter. And I also throw in some training. So we threw in some of our spring training and one of my secrets about throttle control. Oh, yeah. It was a game changer for me, being able to learn how to have control over my gas pedal, especially when you're rock crawling, you're on rocky terrain. So I felt like it was one of my favorite secrets to share with you. So once we get done today, if you're not on our newsletter, no worries. Jump over to ladyjeepers.com, scroll to the very bottom, and sign up for our newsletter. That way you don't miss anything. Hello, everyone. Yay, Buckies. Yeah, I'm not really sporting Lady Jeepers today. We have Buckies going on. So yay, Buckies. Hello, Linda. Hello, Jessica. We got Illinois, 68 degrees. Finally, we're going to celebrate that spring is on the horizon, which means Jeep season. Oh, I am so glad that you love the newsletter. Oh, thank you. Loving the shirt. And from North Carolina. So I see, oh, we got Texas too. Yep, I got the Bucky shirt on. Oh, hello. So let me know where you're watching from. I see Illinois, North Carolina, Texas. Let me know where you are watching from as we're jumping on. All right, so we're going to do today's cup of coffee. And yes, I really am having coffee at 3 p.m. Cup of coffee with Kristin. We're going to do a little different today. Normally I jump in and I just start sharing, again, a specific training aspect, education aspect for your Jeep. Don't worry, those are coming. They're coming back. No worries. We have a huge schedule coming up. as far as what I want to teach you and be bringing forward. So lots and lots of great information and education coming forward on our Wednesday Cup of Coffee with Kristin. Remember, every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, right here. Quick lunch break, coffee break, Jeep break, and we get to hang out. So for today, I'm doing it a little different. Today, instead of me just jumping in and going over some Jeep education with you today, because we are at the beginning of spring. So I covered what you need for your Jeep spring checklist, what you need to have in your Jeep for you personally. I feel like spring is a time of regrowth, rebirth, right? You start to notice everything's blooming. The animals start to get more active. I know like our birds have come back like crazy. So I'm going to go off topic for a minute. So I am a total animal lover. I'm all about nature. I believe there's a connection there, and I always have always been an animal person. So our house kind of becomes like the crazy animal house. So like we have tons of deer and herds of deer that are out in, we have a 4-acre pasture that Chad is adamant about keeping the grass in until he got his TJ, and now he'll tear it up. But so it's, it's nice grass. So we have a herd, huge herds of the deer that come through. And then we get to see like the babies come through in the spring. But we have a big front porch and we have a bird's nest on each end. Every year when they leave and, fly away when it gets cold, Chad always is like, I want to take the bird's nest down. I cannot stand having these birds because we have columns on our front porch. So we have one on each side, bird's nest on each side. And he's like, I just can't stand having all these birds here. It makes a mess and they're just annoying. And so every year he's like, I want to take the nest down so that when they come back, there won't be a nest to come back to, which I do not allow. So our birds are back. I'm so excited. So I love seeing them back in their nests. That means spring is here. So excited. So I love it. So I want to take a minute today. And instead of me jumping in and giving you an overview, some education, diving into the Jeep, I would love to hear from you today. So as we're talking about spring, we're talking about regrowth, rebirth. What is something that you think of when you think of spring? Like, what is something you're excited about? Is it getting to be outside more? Like, oh, the sun is out. It is warm. I love going outside and experiencing, the sunlight hitting me. Is it, I love seeing the grass turn green. I love seeing the flowers. I can't wait for the trees to come back in. What is something for you that like excites you about spring? We all know it's Jeep season, right? So we're all excited about that. But besides Jeep season, what is something for you that's significant with spring? For me, it's the animals coming back out and getting more active. Don't love the slitheries, snakies that we have down here in the South. But other than that, I love that. So I would love to hear from you today as we get started for our cup of coffee with Kristin. So instead of me taking over and sharing with you, I'm going to ask you to share with me today. So I will be watching the comments. Oh, we got a lot. Let's see who we have watching. We got Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, North Carolina is at 85 degrees today. That is amazing. Virginia, Michigan. Kim, I agree with you. Coffee is great anytime. Oh, I ordered the Don't Talk to Me shirt a couple of days ago, but I doubt it will be here in time for Winrock to take a pick and win the prize. That's okay. I'm so excited that you ordered that. That is awesome. We always are announcing new swag every month as well, ladies. So this month for April, we put in the newsletter. We have a Can't Talk Right Now out doing Lady Jeepers stuff. The reason we came up with that one, if you're a TikTok person, there's the Can't Talk Right Now doing bad dog blank. So that became my joke. Frances, who is my employee, brings her corgi. If you have not seen Toast, you will see her more on social media. She is kind of the Lady Jeepers mascot. But She is a whole bunch of personality rolled into one little itty bitty dog. So my joke became every time Francis would be like, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, "Can't talk now. Doing bad dog." So that was kind of our ongoing joke. So then we made a shirt for one of our events that said "Can't talk right now" at the Cove, doing Lady Jeepers stuff for our intermediate event. And everyone enjoyed it so much, we swapped it around a little bit, and it's now available as one of our Lady Jeepers shirts. That's what we're announcing for April. You get a t-shirt and a tank top. So you can always head over to ladyjeepers.com. There's a link there. You can hit shop, or you can always jump over to ladyjeepers.us. If you want to go straight to the swag store, totally up to you. We appreciate, though, any support, ladies. You ladies are just amazing. Oh, 85 here too. Oh my gosh. Oh no, Wisconsin is negative 31, windy and cold. Oh my gosh. So that is, and I see they can't wait for Tennessee weather next week. Yes, you're going to love it. But I'm going to tell you, that's going to be a huge change. I cannot believe you are still so cold in Wisconsin. Oh, there's two. Ew. That is so cold. Yes. So that's going to be a huge jump for you. Tennessee is supposed to be in the 80s. We're supposed to have great weather for the extravaganza that's coming up. So excited about that, by the way. So if you are on here, you're coming to the extravaganza. I sent an email out today and it said, bring a cooler, lots of water and sports drinks because it will be warm. If you are coming from somewhere that is cold to the extravaganza, please make sure to load up for extra hydration, because going from negative 31 to 80 with humidity is going to be a huge change for you. You're going to love the sun and the great weather, but just remember that is going to be a significant temperature change and it's going to be warm. All right. So what do you think of for spring? What is something you look forward to? Like, what is that thing you're like, spring's here. I can't wait for, besides Jeep season, because we all know we're waiting for that. All right, we got sun and nature. I love that. Riding our bikes and hanging out at the lake, hearing all the birds chirping. Those are all great things to be looking forward to. And those are great things to be excited for spring. Blue bonnets blooming in Texas. Oh, yes, that's amazing. I love that it is light out earlier, so I don't have to feed all the animals in the dark. Jessica, yes. I love the time. Okay, I despise the time change. I am a person of I do really good with my structure. So even though it's only an hour, it affects me it usually takes me 3 days to kind of readjust because it just doesn't feel right. My body has to readjust. So I despise time changes, but I love it when it is light earlier and it is light later. That is probably one thing I love about summer, is being able to be outside for so much longer. It is hard though. The other evening, Chad was like, it doesn't feel like 7:00. And it really didn't, because, now that it's staying light longer, it really does kind of shift and take a little bit to get used to it. But absolutely, Jessica, especially if you have animals you're taking care of, there is nothing better than having it be sunlight when it's time to go out in the morning or out in the evening. The smells are stronger in nature and the rain helps everything grow more. Absolutely. And we got Karen from Massachusetts. Hello. Terry from Illinois. Hello. I love that shirt. Thank you. They put in a Buc-ee's by us. We go to Buc-ee's way too much. But they have ethanol-free gas. So we run ethanol-free gas in all of our vehicles. So we are up at Buc-ee's all the time now because they have ethanol-free gas. And it's very affordable comparative to other places. Richmond, Virginia. I love it. I love toast. Oh, Jessica. Everyone loves toast, but she is a whole lot of personality and a little bitty body. Let's see. Oh, more about loving spring and what you're looking forward to. Hummingbirds. I put my feeders out this morning. Oh, that is awesome. Hummingbirds are so amazing. Oh my goodness. Kim said she loves the new shirt. Thank you. Oh, I need the new shirt. Yes, you do. 68 right now. This morning it was 76. Ooh, so you're going down, not up. We are getting warmer. I love seeing the birds nesting all around our neighborhood and the local flock of parrots return in the spring. Oh my gosh, you have parrots. That's amazing. Man, what I wouldn't give to have some parrots around here. We're not south enough to have the cool I shouldn't say that. I love our birds. Um, but that would just be amazing. I may have to plan a trip so I can go down and see the wild parrots. That would be amazing. Warmer weather. Yes, that is something to celebrate. Baby animals. Oh, absolutely. That is something that is so amazing with spring. Planting a garden. That is such a great way to be rolling in spring and something to look forward to. Days getting longer. Absolutely. Gardening. Yes. I'm late to the party. You're not late. We just started. We're just hanging out today. We have 2 robin's nests on our carport. When one set hatches and leaves the nest, another pair come in and lay more. We had that happen last year for the first time. We had, so I love having the bird nests out on our front porch because I like to go sit out there with my cup of coffee, start my day, and I like to watch like as they're growing, and you can tell when they're getting close to getting ready to leave the nest. And then I have all sorts of like mom anxiety, like please no baby birds fall. Um, but I love going through that experience. Last year that happened. They left and then a different set came in. So we actually had 2 sets of baby birds last year. So I love that you're experiencing that too. I go to Buc-ee's too much in Texas. Man, they're going everywhere now though. That's what's so crazy. I've never been to a Buc-ee's. Oh my gosh. But I'll be sure to go to get to one on the way to Windrock. So I wish the big, huge one was open. It's not open yet, but 2024, it should be. I think it's like the biggest Buc-ee's that they have built. That's going to be up in Sevierville, Tennessee. So it will actually, you will drive by it to get to the extravaganza. It's not open yet, but it will be for 2024. But you should pass them depending on which way you're coming. I have to run high test in order to get non-ethanol, and only one gas station here has it. It is hard to find, Jessica. That's why I said we go to Buc-ee's too much, because we like to run the ethanol free in our vehicles. 85 in Georgia. Smell of freshly mowed grass. That is a smell that has like so distinct. And yes, that is like such a smell of spring, right? Like smelling the flowers, smelling cut grass. Absolutely. I love it. All right, ladies, while we are on here hanging out for a cup of coffee with Kristin today, again, I wanted, instead of me jumping in to bring forward information to you today, I wanted you to bring stuff forward to me. So if you have any Jeep related questions while we are on here today, go ahead and drop those in the comments so that you can be bringing forward what you would like some information on, or if you have any questions, so I can jump in and help you. So today is not about me taking over and bringing information forward to you. I am passing over the responsibilities. No, I'm passing over our cup of coffee with Kristin to you. So let me know if you have any Jeep related questions while we are on here, taking our coffee break and our Jeep break together. Blue-headed parrots, not native. Okay, that makes sense. But that is still amazing. Oh my gosh. I guess I thought of like, like the jungles when you have like the big, huge like macaws and things like that are wild. But yes, that makes sense that they're not natives. But that is still amazing to be able to look out and there's parrots at your feeder. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, ladies, let me know if you have any Jeep related questions. I know I'm putting you on the spot today. Jessica, such a great question. She would like to understand backspacing better. So I will tell you that is a super technical question. Does not have a super easy answer. So I'm going to actually make a note. Oh. I was moving my paper because I want to bring that forward to you, but even just a kind of quick, short answer on that is going to be a long answer. And I have some great slides that I've put together from training we've done before that actually can go over and show you like what a zero offset is, talk about backspacing, and talk about the different offsets that are available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that down for a cup of coffee with Kristin. We will do backspacing and offset. And I will announce that we are not going to do it next week because I'm going to come to you live from the extravaganza. Woo! But we will do it the following week. So I will do backspacing and offset. Plan that's going to be 30, 45, maybe an hour, just because it is pretty technical in the explanation and showing the actual pictures to go over what all of that means. I know, I'm sorry, I have spacers, and I know I should move to wheels with backspacing. I'm just lost. Jessica, no worries at all. I do not mind at all jumping in to go over that because there is a lot of confusion. I get a ton of questions about when someone is going to build their Jeep, do their upgrades. They're going to go to a bigger tire, and lots of questions about what offset come in. We actually had one last night when we did the guys take over Lady Jeepers, their live Q&A for our members. There was a question about backspacing on the Gladiator, which I was so happy that I jumped in and had the right answer for that one. I didn't know if the Gladiator was different. It is not. Now I know. But we will go over, instead of me just like throwing a number at you to say like a -20, a -24 offset, we're going to go through like, what does that mean? Why do you need it? And we'll go through all of that. So not next week because I'm going to come live from the extravaganza, but the following week. I will make sure to put a post up so nobody misses it. So I'll put it on the schedule specifically for talking about offset and backspacing. All right, here is one, not a question, but a concern about aftermarket tire carriers. All right, let me share this. I should have hid your name. Yes, okay. I'm weird about personal stuff. I try not to share people's personal information, even though we're all on here live together on Facebook. I try to be very cognizant of that. So not a question, but a concern about aftermarket tire carrier. Texas has a new law that you must have a higher visible third brake light, which exit from the stock carrier, but not the Rusty's, and not sure if the placement of the Rusty's third brake light, I'm going to assume, says, hold on, let me. Would pass inspection here. So that is a great question. Sometimes it's hard to have exact answers because each state is a little bit different. What you can do is, I know that there are different companies that will actually sell a relocation bracket where they have adjustable ones. So that if you needed to, you could install it up higher. It won't work specifically with the Rusties. But that is actually a great question. So I'm going to make a note of that, and I'm going to find out if Rusty's themselves knows that, because to me, that is one of the best aftermarket tire carriers available right now on the market. If you're going to go to a bigger tire, you need to upgrade your stock tire carrier for longevity. And Rusty's is one of my absolute favorite. There are lots of different options out there. Some of his personal preference, but that is one I absolutely love. So I'm going to find out. Do you have the actual new law that has come out? As far as like, if there's a new law, there should be like an actual measurement. There should be the size of the brake light, if they're going to be that specific. If you have that, shoot that to me if you don't mind. I'm making a note. that will help me as well, so I can get you the right information, because where I don't live in Texas. Oh, am I riding on a metal cloak? Yes, I am. Metal Cloak was awesome to donate a gift certificate for the extravaganza, and I just realized that is the envelope that I grabbed that I'm writing on. So I'm not going to show anyone what's around me because it is all extravaganza stuff. All right. So if you can send that to me, that would help so much. Because again, where I don't live in Texas, I know I can research it. But if you have it where it is like super easily accessible, please just shoot that to me. You can either shoot it to me through Messenger off of the Lady Jeepers page, or you can shoot it to me, or you can post it up in the private group. That would be great. Because if I can see actual specifications, that will help me to know if I can say yes or if I can say no. Let's see. I thought I saw something about only needing to disconnect the driver's side sway bar on JLUJT. Why only the one side, or did I read that wrong? So that is another great question. All right. So here's the thing. I recommend that if you're going to be trail riding, you always disconnect both sway bar links on both sides, regardless of what Jeep you have. If you have a JLJT, it is going to be so much easier if you're going to be trail riding to go ahead and get the aftermarket quick disconnects. They are not super expensive. And I would have those installed, because the issue with the JL, and I shouldn't say issue, with the JLUJT, when they redesigned the new generation Jeeps, the passenger sway bar link is now on a shared bracket. So if you look at a JKU, earlier generation, or like LJ, TJ, each sway bar link has its own, like, this is your sway bar link. Okay. When you go, they have a nut and bolt, and they have their own bracket that they connect to, that the nut and the bolt go through, that you tighten. If you go to a quick disconnect, what that does is, instead of a nut and a bolt, you're going to have the bolt and the pin. So I have to just pull out the pin. And I recommend, if you're going to go with an aftermarket quick disconnect, make sure to get one that is greasable. What that means is it's going to have a grease fitting where you can actually service and grease your quick disconnect. Always recommend that. JKS makes a great pair. There's a lot of different options, but just make sure it's greasable so you can service it. Okay. So with that said, when you look at the JLUJT, on the driver's side, it has its own bracket. So the bottom of that sway bar link has a nut and a bolt that runs through it, and it's on its own bracket. On the passenger side, it has a shared bracket, which if you actually go to a quick disconnect, just FYI, so you know, if you go to install a quick disconnect yourself on a JLUJT, you do have to actually use a cutting wheel, or actually grind. You have to cut that bracket to be able to install your quick disconnect. So something to keep in mind. Installing the quick disconnect on the JLUJT yourself is not as easy as it was in the other generations, because you do have to cut that shared bracket so that it can work independently, so that you have the actual bolt and the pin, so you're able to use your quick disconnect. So with that said, if you have just a stock JLUJT, you have not added quick disconnects to it, when you go to disconnect your sway bar links, you're going to have to manually disconnect. So loosen the nut and the bolt to remove it from the bottom of that sway bar link, so that you can free it to disconnect that sway bar link to disconnect your sway bar. Driver side, pretty easy. Passenger side, because you have that shared bracket, can be a lot harder to get your tools into. And especially if you have never disconnected that sway bar before on that passenger side, when you use like a breaker bar, or more torque to be able to break that loose, sometimes it can be a little bit harder to be able to get all the tools in there to get that leverage to be able to break it loose that first time because of that shared bracket. So, with that said, here is my, and this is my personal recommendation, personal preference here. I'm not saying that this is the way to do it and this is absolutely right, but here's what I usually recommend to our ladies. If you have a JL, JLU, JT, you know you want to be trail riding, just get the aftermarket disconnects, make it easy. You don't have that shared bracket anymore. You can disconnect both sides. You're good to go. If you are still stuck with stock disconnects, if you are going to be doing, like at our 101 events, really easy trails, you can just disconnect your driver's side. So that one, you know how to disconnect your sway bar. Two, that is going to remove the one link so that you are going to have a little more suspension travel, and you're not going to be on any trail that's going to be hard enough that you're going to actually bend that sway bar link that is connected. If you are talking about anything over a 101, which is, 101 is beginner stock friendly. So for like our events, 101 is beginner stock friendly. A lot of times it's Forest Service roads, gravel roads, like down in Florida, it's sand roads. If you are going to be going where there are ditches, where there are rocks, anything like that, you absolutely need to disconnect both sides. So just be prepared when you go to disconnect on a JL, JLU, JT that there is a shared bracket. So that is something, to think about. So for example, like if you're coming to our extravaganza next weekend, or you come to one of our 101 events, if you have a JL, JLU, JT, we only teach you because we want you to learn hands-on how to do it, be comfortable, understand the process, how to disconnect the driver's side. But we're not going on anything that terrain-wise that would put you in jeopardy of having that one link still connected. I recommend that you always disconnect both sides, or just go to a quick disconnect to make it super easy to disconnect both sides. So if you're coming to the extravaganza, if you are in a TJ or an LJ, check your bolts for your sway bar link. You may need a specific torque wrench, or torque socket, or hex key, depending on what bolts are in there. A lot of times those sway bar bolts are no longer stock because, in the older Jeeps, things rust, they get replaced. So before you head to an event or a trail ride, make sure to look so that you know, what does that bolt end look like? What are you going to need? Is it going to be a socket? Is it going to need something special or specific? And again, you see that on the TJ LJ, depending on if that bolt has been replaced and when it was replaced. So go look. Know what you're going to need to disconnect your sway bar. That way you have all the tools that you need. Hopefully that was helpful. So again, JL, JLU, JTs. Yes, if you're going to be doing anything but easy trails, you need to disconnect both sides. Recommend quick disconnects. If you come to our event and you're a 101er, if you are in a JK, JKU, LJ, or TJ, you will be disconnecting both sides of your sway bar link so that your sway bar is disconnected. So hopefully that helps answer that question just a little bit. Oh, so a friend's Jeep didn't pass inspection because she didn't have the third brake light on her JL. So I will tell you, even here in Georgia, the new vehicles, if they have a third brake light, they have to have that third brake light. So like you'll see on my JKU, I did the spare tire delete when I went to the 37-inch Treps, and the Hutchinson double bead locks. just because lots of different reasons. But anyway, so I did this spare tire delete, but I still kept a third brake light. I had to do a relocation, but mine is very small, but it's still there. That's the thing. If you had it, it has to be there. So yes, if you don't have any third brake light, that will be a problem regardless. So my question would be, did they change the location and the size of that third brake light for Texas? That's more of what I'm interested in, because yes, if you don't have one, you're in trouble. Like, that's why they have us the third brake light relocation kit, and there's lots of companies that make them, because put a bigger tire on, you still have to keep that third brake light. You can't just take it off because it doesn't fit anymore with your tire. That is across the board. So my question, I guess, is, that's always been the law. So my curiosity now is, did Texas actually put a size requirement on the size of the third brake light? And do they have a requirement on height measurement? That would be my other question. Because if it's just you have to have a third brake light, then yes, you have to have a third brake light. It is interesting as we talk about modifying and building our Jeeps. There are different opinions on different things, different ideas, different thought processes. I am all about safety, and I'm all about being legal and understanding what that means. Everyone can make their own choices, have their own opinions. I always go to safety first. Make sure that you are abiding by the laws so that you understand how that's going to work. So I know we did a beadlock specific really quick class talking about how beadlocks are not, well, I shouldn't say that. There are 2 companies that make DOT recognized beadlock wheels. Other than those 2 companies, beadlocks are stamped for off-road use only. Technically, that means they are illegal for on-road purposes, on-road use, depending on what state you live in. Depends on if it is actually categorized and it says they're illegal for your state. I know some states, I heard, again, I recommend you need to do your homework before you make any changes on your Jeep, whether it be a third brake light, whether it be lift height, whether it be the type of wheels you go with. You need to know what the laws are in your state. Like, for example, Georgia. The reason I bring up lift height. So there is a law in Georgia. It is not the lift height of the vehicle. It is the height of the bumper. So like for a long time, you'd see the big, huge, like mud bog trucks that like were lifted ridiculous. But, so they'd be up here, and then you'd see like the bumper way down from the tailgate. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That looks so weird. To be legal, the bumper has to be, there's a height requirement in the state of Georgia for your bumper. So those are things you need to look into and to research. Do your homework before you start making changes, modifying your Jeep. Because you'll also notice, like with the Rubicon Recon package that came out from Jeep, or some of the different models, you'll notice that it almost looks like they have this extra piece that almost looks like a mud flap on the fenders. That is so that Jeep is street legal in any state, because states have different requirements on fender width as well. So those are things you really need to know and understand your state. So I love to give advice. I love to help. But ultimately, you have to do your homework and know what the laws and requirements are in your state. So I love that was brought up by the third brake light. Again, talking about beadlock wheels. There's 2 that are DOT recognized, that are stamped DOT. Other beadlocks will be stamped with off-road use only. Understand what that means if you are on the road and you get in an accident that is your fault. That's my recommendation, just to understand that, because some insurance companies, if they have an adjuster that's smart enough or an inspector that's smart enough, they may catch that it was on a offered use only beadlock wheel, and you may be liable and responsible for all the damage and cost to other vehicles if you're in an accident. Just putting that out there. Do your homework, do your research. And I always bring things like that forward so that you're aware and you can understand, and then you can make your decisions. Texas got a little crazy with some of their laws. I hate the front plate deal. Oh, I know that there's always changes. I have to tell you, I came from the West Coast where we had to have a front and rear license plate, to the South where you only have to have a rear license plate, which to me was really weird for a while. So it all changes. Yay, just had quick disconnects put on Jazz on Monday. That means Kendra is all ready to go. So excited. Let's see. I found this and still looking for actual law. All Jeeps model year 1994 or newer are manufactured with a center high mounted stop lamp. If any modifications are made, the vehicle must be equipped with an additional lamp of the same type, which means all applicable requirements, including the visibility requirements. So that helps so much. Is there an actual law somewhere that states what the applicable requirements are and what their visibility requirements are? Or is this where it is kind of being broad in general? I would look and see if you can dig in a little bit more onto what are those applicable requirements. What are the visibility requirements? Worst case, you can go to an inspection center and ask them, because they're going to know, because they're the ones that decide if your vehicle passes Texas inspection or not. And you can say to them, okay, what is the law here? What are you looking for? What is considered an acceptable, like if I decide to go with a bigger tire, change out my spare tire carrier, I still have a third brake light. What are those specifications for that third brake light to count so I can pass inspection? Sometimes it is just going and asking the people who are going to know, so that you can be really clear. I like to err on always being over prepared. I want to know more than I will ever need to know on any subject that is going to affect me, because I like to be over prepared. I am an over preparer, and that is just who I am. Safety, understanding things so you can make the best decision, and being over prepared. Because if you're over prepared, you're overly safe. Usually things will go in a great way for you, like in a positive direction. Oh, yeah, you just installed the aftermarket disconnect, so you are good to go. Great to know that information if you don't have them. Absolutely. And I love sharing that, because if you ever, are at a trail ride with a group of people, or around a group of people, and there's questions, then you can help bring forward education and knowledge to them. That was my biggest goal when we started ladyjeepers.com. Yes, it was about helping you and making sure you were over prepared, you were overly safe, and got to make, the absolute most informed, best decisions that you could for you. But also about like, hey, if we do this as like this community in a whole, then when you step outside the Lady Jeeper community and you're out here, you get to bring all the Lady Jeeper information forward to other people. So now you're helping more and more, and it can grow and grow. More people can understand. So I love that so much. And I am so jealous of Susie saying how much she loves her sway lock. I'm going to tell you, Susie, after the Ride for Soldiers Child Foundation and seeing your sway lock like in person, like actually working, I really want one for my JKU now. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. I was just going to go with the anti-rock like I have on my big YJ and just call it good. But I have to tell you, after seeing your sway lock, I really am going back and forth on that now, because you get the best of both worlds in one. If you're not familiar with what sway lock is, ladies, so you know how we have our sway bar, and then we have our sway bar links, and then we disconnect those. A lot of people go to an anti-rock. So that replaces and it becomes like a hinge system so that you don't ever disconnect the link, but it has this hinge system. So the idea is you're going to get a little more stability off-road because it's going to control the body movement, the body roll. So you're still going to have the stability that you need off-road, but you're not going to have as much suspension utilization as you would fully disconnected. But then the flip side, on road, you're not as stable with an anti-rock as you are with a full sway bar where you put the link back. So the anti-rock is kind of this like in-betweener, right? Like it's better off-road. If you really tune your suspension, your travel, and get the right anti-rock, it is like phenomenal off-road because you do want a little body control so you don't get too much body movement while you're off-roading. But on road, you're going to be a little squirrely. It's not quite as tight. So there's those like great off-road benefits, on road. Like it's acceptable. Better than being disconnected, right? Sway lock gives you the best of both worlds. You still have your tight sway bar for when you are daily driving down the road for your stability. But when you pull the lever and disconnect it, you are getting that suspension travel and utilization. So it's amazing. Amazing. So, but for most of us, a quick disconnect will work just fine. That's what I keep telling myself, Susie. I keep telling myself, quick disconnects will work just fine. But no, I'm very jealous of your sway lock, Susie. Oh, Kim said, I haven't replaced mine yet. Still building my TJ. What's the best sway bars to get? Hopefully that just helped answer that question, Kim. So if you have a TJ, definitely go look at the bolt end and see what the head looks like. Like, is it going to be a socket? Is it going to be a hex key? Is it going to be a torque drive that you're going to need so that you know what you'll need for that TJ currently? Then as far as for upgrades go, that becomes a hard question. If this is going to be daily driver on the road, you want to be able to go on vacation with it, or you want to be able to drive it a long distance to an event, you want to be able to drive around town, you want to be able to jump on the interstate, I absolutely recommend just getting sway bar disconnects and do your stock sway bar, because that on-road stability is so important. And then when you go off-road, you can just pull your quick disconnects and you're going to get all your suspension. Now, if you are building your TJ as an off-road rig, it's not going to be on the road hardly at all. You are not going to drive it long distances. Then I would say I would look at a good anti-rock setup because if you're going to build it that big for off-road use only, you need to control some of that body roll and body movement on it off-road. When you start getting on big stuff, when you're on big, huge rocks, you don't want the body to be able to move and pull the Jeep. You want to have control so everything is slow and not stiff like it would be with a full sway bar connected. But what you don't want to happen is if you're on like a big ledge and you're vertical and you're trying to climb and there's movement and you drop trying to get up, what you don't want is when you drop the whole body to move. And when that happens, and with the newer Jeeps, there's a lot more body movement and body roll than some of the older Jeeps. But just remember, the taller you go with any vehicle, the more body movement you're going to have and more instability. So remember, if you go up, you have to go out. So add more width and you have to add more length. So you have to always keep everything in balance. It's kind of like building a house. If you go to remodel the house, you can't just tear all the load-bearing walls down and hope the structure is going to hold. You have to look at the structure that you have and keep the balance and the stability of it. Same thing with your Jeep. So long story short, so what that anti-rock does is like, so when you go to drop, instead of getting the this, and then usually it has a concussion back a couple times, it does this and it controls the body and it's slow. And you may get a little body movement here, but you don't get the big body movement. So ultimately, it gives you more stability and more control on the big obstacles off road, too. So those are some things to think about. Oh, I love this question because I get to share from personal experience. So, on a Rubicon with automatic disconnects, do you disconnect both sides? Here's what's great about the Rubicon. Because you have the push button electronic disconnect, you don't need to manually get out and disconnect those sway bar links. The button and the electronic box breaks it itself right behind the bumper. If you look behind the bumper, there's the box, your sway bar goes into it. So your button actually is what disconnects and connects your sway bars. That is perfect until you start getting up into advanced trails. If you are going to be doing advanced trails, hard trails, high level trails in your Rubicon, then you do need to disconnect both sides of that sway bar link, because if those sway bar links are still connected and you're on hard trails, you are at a risk of bending, tweaking, and damaging those sway bar links. So with the Rubicon, beginner trails, 201 trails, moving up to do kind of the mid-level trails, just use your button. If you're going to move up and do hard trails, advanced trails, yes, you absolutely still need to disconnect both sides on the Rubicon. I recommend if you have a Rubicon, you still know how to disconnect your sway bar links, because sometimes we're talking about electronics. Now, granted, I have a 2017, so 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Well, it broke in 22, so I've been driving it without sway bars. So we're going to say 5 years. Mine went 5 years, a lot of off-roading, so a lot of disconnecting, reconnecting sway bars, a lot of stress put on it, a lot of dirt, a lot of water, a lot of mud. My electronic box no longer works, so my Jeep is stuck disconnected because my electronic box is no longer working. That's why I keep going back and forth what I want to do. I'm still trying to decide. So that probably will end up with an anti-rock, to be honest. But so you still need to know how to disconnect those, because if something were to happen with the electronic box, like if you were to trail ride, you want to go trail riding and it wasn't working, and you still want to go on the trail, you need to know how to disconnect it yourself. So I recommend, whether you need it for your model vehicle, knowledge is power. So know how to do something. Okay, so this helps a lot. I'm going to share this with everyone. I'm hiding your name. So this is for Texas. This is a great question. So the question came up at the third brake light. We were trying to get specifics on Texas. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what state you live in. If you had a third brake light and you took it off, you are no longer legal. You have to have a third brake light. So, you know who I'm talking to. All right, Jody, but no one can see your name, so we're good. The thing on that is, just remember that if you take it off, you have to put it back on, period. So it just says it has to be higher than the 2 brake lights on the other side. So basically all that means, if you are in Texas, you take off, put a different tire carrier on, make sure you get the third brake light relocation kit that should be available with whatever model aftermarket tire carrier that you got. So like, for example, Rusty's has one. We order it with the aftermarket tire carrier. It's installed at the same time, moves the brake light up, so then you can put your bigger tire on and you still have your third brake light. So I think that sounds more of like I took something off. Here's another example. If you have a JLUJT, you probably noticed you couldn't find aftermarket fenders for a long time because they have the markers in the fender now. JKJKU, it was in the grill for your turn signals. Then they moved it for JLJLUJT. So what happened? That means you cannot take your fender off legally to drive it down the road. Doesn't matter the state. You cannot take the fender off, put another fender on that does not have marker lights, and just head out on the road. Because now you have no front marker lights. So you have no turn signals. So you don't have the blinkers. So you're not, so that's something to think about. Anytime we go to remove something to replace it with something new aftermarket, you can't just say like, oh, I'm going to pull this fender off that has marker lights, the blinkers in the fender, and put something on that doesn't have it. That's not legal. Same thing with the back. If you have a third brake light, you can't just pull it off and say, I'm just going to put a bigger tire on and not put it back on. Okay, you can. We're talking legally. So that's what it sounds like. It was more of an issue, not necessarily the change itself about the third brake light, but that there wasn't a third brake light reinstalled. And I will tell you, this was no different for the JKJKU. You still had to get the third brake light relocation kit. So even like for me, I did the full spare tire delete. So I don't even have a spare tire on the back of my Jeep. So what I did is the tag relocation kit, because I wanted to move where my tag on my vehicle was. And I got the third brake light relocation kit. So they've been making third brake light relocation kits for a long time. That was even back in the JKJKUs. So it's kind of one of those, if you take it off and it has something you need to look into, if you need that when it goes back on. Don't just assume, I don't have to have a third brake light. I'm just going to take it. Or I don't have to have marker lights. Front turn signals are no big deal. Make sure to do your research and understand before you make any changes like that. My kind of general rule of thumb is if you take it off, what you're going to put back needs to replace what was there. So that's why it took so long for aftermarket fenders to come out for JLUJTs, because they had to reconfigure and redesign the fenders completely, because now you have to have a turn signal in there. And even with that, your options are still a little limited. Yes, and each state is different on their laws for halos and rock lights. You need to know some states, they are not allowed to be run at all on the roads. Doesn't matter what roads. State of Alabama, they were strict on that one. Absolutely no rock lights. Doesn't matter the color, are to be run on the road. So you need to know what your state laws are and don't just assume you can do whatever you want to. Thank you for sending me a link. That is perfect. Yes, if you're going to be at the extravaganza event, go see Susie and Nacho. We will go ahead and spotlight them because they were our first Lady Jeepers build concierge Jeep that we did. Oh, it was amazing. Susie is awesome. And Nacho has turned out amazing. Amazing. So you can go see Susie and see that sway lock for yourself. If you have any questions, and I'm hoping that that is my husband that jumped on here. Sometimes it doesn't show me names. Sometimes it does. So I'm hoping that that was you, Chad, because I can't see whose name it was. And if not, I appreciate it. Is that manual or on the fly? Nancy, if you're still on here, I know I'm going over for our quick cup of coffee with Kristin today, but Nancy, if you're on here, can you expand on that a little bit for me? So I know exactly what you're asking about, if it's manual or on the fly, because I'm just now scrolling through the questions. So I probably missed where you asked that. So I'm not missing questions. I'm just slow today, kind of answering them as I get to them. And Susie stays clean with the sway lock. Absolutely. Kim, I'm so glad that helped. Daily driver and off-road now and again. Then Kim, I would absolutely on your TJ stock sway bar. I mean, I would update and get a new stock sway bar, because the older generation Jeeps, we love them. Parts wear out. Honestly, the sway bars probably worn out on the TJ. So you could get a new stock sway bar to install in there, and then you could go to quick disconnects. But I definitely would go with the stock setup for what you're explaining. I'm going to go by and ask them specifically if the Rusties will work. I think that's a great idea. Knowledge is power. Over prepared. You can't ever be over prepared. Oh no, Jessica said no halos in New Hampshire. We found out the hard way. Yes, so all states are different. I will tell you, all states are different if they allow you to run halos or rock lights, but all states are the same. You are not to ever run emergency colors. So that means if you're on any road, doesn't matter if it's a back road, if it's an interstate, main road through town, rule of thumb is no red, no blue, and no amber lights. Those three are emergency color lights. So you don't ever want to run those, because that can look like you're trying to imitate a police officer or a first responder or an emergency vehicle. The other thing is it can distract people on the road, and then they're trying to figure out, like, do I have to pull over? What is coming up behind me? So just remember, even if rock lights are legal in your state, red, blue, and amber are not legal. So make sure you don't ever run those. Those are for emergency use only. I had to insist when they put the rear bumper on and relocated my plate to add back the light. The 4x4 place told me just add it if I got caught. And I said, nope, order it and add it. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That just hits home how important the right shops are. That's something we're actually going to be talking about on one of our Cup of Coffee with Kristin, which is how to help to find the right shop or to pick the right shop for you, because sometimes that can be so frustrating. It's such a hard task in its own. So what I'm going to share with you is what I do. So when I am deciding on a shop, like, is this a shop we could work with? Is this a shop I feel comfortable with? I'm going to share with you the exact process I go through, the questions that I ask, and actually what I'm looking for. So I love that you shared that, because I'll be really honest with you, that would be a shop that would be on my no list, because again, over prepared, over safe, making the right decisions. I will tell you, this is something we were just talking about that came up, because we are doing some more Lady Jeeper concierge builds that we have going. What that means is basically we meet, and then I take what we talked about, what your thoughts are, and turn it into an entire build plan, come back to you. Then we go ahead and actually have a parts list, pricing, all that kind of stuff. Then I go through, order everything for you with Lady Jeepers discount. And then we set up actually getting installation done. And if there's any questions while work's being done on your Jeep, they contact me. So I'm working directly with the shop. And I will tell you something that kind of came up, a conversation that I was having with a regional manager, was people assume, and a lot of times the shops assume, that because we are ladies and it's a Jeep or a vehicle, and this is not all shops. There are some amazing shops out there. So please, I am not talking about everyone. I'm talking about from my personal experience. So I don't want to offend anyone, but my personal experience, one of the biggest things I've noticed is when you go in, right? Like, I'm not going to lie, there's some builds I've taken in that the guys have looked at me like, wow, like, are you serious? This is like an incredible build. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't it be? Right? Like, so I go to bat for you ladies too, but I love working with who we work with. So 100% comfortable there. If you're watching, I'm just joking around. You guys are awesome. But anyways, so a conversation was had of, I feel like a big misconception is when like me as a woman comes into the shop and says, all right, we're going to do a build. It's a 2021 sport. We're going to go to 35s. We got to get the parts list together and let's go ahead and get it designed. Not all shops, some, this is what I've experienced, kind of have this idea of like, well, and they might do it to guys, not just women. So let's just say as the person customer, okay, have this idea that like as the customer, I don't want to spend money, right? Like I want the cheapest thing. I want to cut corners. I don't want to spend money. They want to give me the cheap way to do it or the ways around doing things. Or again, instead of saying like, oh, hey, so, it's an extra, depends on which one you buy, $195 for, I'm just thinking about one we just ordered. It's $195 for the third brake relocation kit with the brake light extending wires, making sure it's the correct harness. But what that does is that'll relocate your third brake light. Awesome. Add it. So, right there, thank you for sharing that with me because that kind of does hit home a little bit of, I don't know why there's this idea with so I feel like you get one or the other. There are the middle ground, which are the amazing, perfect shops that are awesome to work with. But then I feel like you get extremes on either side. And I've experienced both, where you get an extreme on one side where they want you to buy everything that is the most expensive. Normally it's because those are the parts they sell and then they get a kickback on. So they're going to make the most money. But there's times they'll add stuff on that you really don't need, right? That's the one extreme. Then you have the other extreme, which is they assume you just don't want to spend money. So then they're not going to try to tell you like, oh, you really should, go ahead and add in, if you're doing the lift anyway, add in the quick disconnects. You're not talking about a significant change in the price in the install. Or, if you're going to do this anyway, go ahead and do the spare tire carrier. You're going to have to do it eventually anyway. Let's go ahead and just put it on there. We'll make sure we get the fascia, depending on which one you get. Then make sure you have the third brake light. Here's the total. It's a little costly, but you're going to need it anyway. This is a great model. Let's just get it done all at one time because that's going to save you a little bit on labor in the long run. But it's some of it is this idea. Like I said, I've experienced both sides. You have this side that wants you to buy everything that you don't need at the highest price possible and then charge you a ridiculous amount for labor because they think they can. Then you have this side that thinks you don't want to spend any money and doesn't even tell you the things you really need. And then you have the middle, which are the ones that you're looking to find, who are going to say to you like, okay, here are your options. Like you could go this way. It's a little more expensive. Here's why. Or you could go this way. It's a little lesser expensive. Here's why. You really don't need that for your build and what you're going to be doing with your Jeep. You really do need this for what you're going to be doing with your Jeep. Those are the perfect ones. So I'm going to be sharing my secret sauce with you on how I determine what shops I want to work with and the exact way I determine that. So I can't wait to share that on A Cup of Coffee with Kristin. So like I said, I have a huge agenda coming up. Lots of information coming forward for A Cup of Coffee with Kristin. Let's see, I actually paid for quick disconnects and labor to install. They totally didn't do it. A lot of excuses, but no, I'm so sorry we screwed up. This was all from my first trip there for mods. Turns out it was my last trip. I don't blame you. Here's where it gets a little tough. We don't ever want to shop bash or mechanic bash, right? Because let's be real, mechanics in shops mechanics are human. Shops are run by a human. We as humans make mistakes. I make mistakes. Sometimes I feel like I make a lot of them. Um, so I've been trying to catch myself on that, but I own it, right? So as long as they own it, we have to look at this balance, right? Sometimes people make mistakes because they're people and they're humans. No one is perfect all the time. How they respond, like the shops and the mechanics, when they make the mistake, to me is what's more important because I believe everyone is going to make a mistake on something somewhere, right? But when you come back and say, hey, we got a little mistake here, we need to get this fixed, how they respond to that, to me, is more important because you can't scrutinize someone for being a human and for making a mistake. Now, there's blatantly not caring and there's honest mistakes. Those are very different as well. you know, and that's where, if that's questionable, you might not be at the right shop. If they had owned it, then I would have given them a second chance. Absolutely, right? Like, oh my gosh, we totally overlooked that. That is totally on us. Bring it back in. We will get you all taken care of. No problem whatsoever. Right? Like, okay, it was a genuine mistake. They're going to make it right. I absolutely agree with you. They would have had a second chance. Absolutely. So, it is interesting. Especially as we're building our Jeep and working with shops and mechanics and other people. And, so much of it is, what are they going to do when I have to come back to them? Because again, everyone is human and makes mistakes. So I always assume at some point there's going to be a mistake. So I'm going to have to go back to them. When I come back to them, how is it going to be handled? That is so important. So yes, I agree with you. It's how you own it. But I'm not going to get on a whole tangent or anything. I kind of feel like that may be a little bit of some of the problems with where we're at today, right? Just own it. No excuses. People make mistakes. Things happen. Like I said, there are times and mine usually come in like a week spurt where at the end of the week, I'm just like, I don't think I did anything right this week. I made so many mistakes. I sent out the wrong emails or the wrong links or put up the wrong link here. Or, I have done so many things, but I own it, right? I'll be like, all right, I had a Kristin moment and totally spaced it. And I actually did that over the weekend. I hadn't owned it and admitted it yet, but I sent out the wrong email. Did not mean to. Had hit the send button before. I was like, oh gosh, well, nothing I can do about it now. Oops. So again, though, you own it. And I kind of feel like that's a little bit of what we're seeing today just in the world, right? Everyone makes mistakes. Here's how I kind of feel about it. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone does something stupid sometimes. They don't do it on purpose. They don't know they're doing it. How we respond back to that person too. Like, do we honor they're a human and they made a mistake and we understand because it happens and we can say, hey, no harm, no foul. I understand. Or do we chastise them because they made a mistake? So some of it is, how do we respond when people make mistakes? But the other is, how do we and other people respond and own that? I feel like there's a lot of excuses and not so much ownership anymore. And that is something I have kind of a hard time with. That's something I instilled in my daughter, is I was that no excuses mother. So my poor daughter, I was a horse trainer at the time too. So not only was she my daughter, but I was helping her with the horses. So she was learning to ride and all of that for me. So talk about my poor daughter sometimes, because there were no excuses. Own it. I don't care if you're 5. I don't care if you're 10. I don't care if you're 13. I don't care if you're 19. No excuses. Say, I totally messed up or I made a mistake. That's how we have to live our life. And I feel like that's something that's so important that we don't see enough of anymore. So sorry to go on the whole other side of things. I actually did go back after Barnwell Mountain because we had issues with the disconnects. They said it was because there is no lift and they are little disconnects reality. They didn't grease them from the get-go. Yes. Oh, and here's something that's great, ladies. If you buy a small grease gun, like a U-joint, um, or a gear grease gun, like a little bitty tiny one, they're so much easier to use. Um, you can grease almost, you just have to get the right end fitting. You can grease everything yourself. If you're one of our amazing Confident Trail members, if you jump into the members group, I did a video of how to grease your greasable parts on your Jeep. So we talked about ball joints. We talked about grease fittings, so you would know what has grease fittings. Talked about if you had an aftermarket drive shaft, it's greasable. We talked about greasing your quick disconnects. So if you're on here and you're one of our amazing Confident Trail members and you missed it, it's in the members group. So you should be able to jump back and take a look at that. Yes, a Zerk grease guns are amazing. Try to find a small one. So, because I know they come in different sizes. That's just my personal preference. I've used all sorts of sizes of different grease guns. Like the big ones, you can get different fittings for them and things like that. I am a big proponent of the smaller one, a little bit easier for me to use. I don't make as big of a mess. But again, personal preference. But yes, the Zerk grease guns are amazing because those Zerk grease fittings are on just about everything. Oh, and Jessica's going to be greasing everything on the Jeep the weekend before Windrock. Woo! You're going to be all ready, all prepared. And yes, this is a Bucky shirt. All right, ladies. I kept you here forever, over an hour today for our normally quick cup of coffee with Kristin. I enjoyed just getting to hang out and talk and answer questions. I just love it. I had a no excuse mom, and I'm glad I did. Oh, that makes me so happy. I think my daughter now at 20 is very appreciative that she had a no excuse mom. But I know back when she was younger, I don't think she felt the same way. But now I think she 100% sees, I'll be really honest. I'm honest with her. I was tough, really tough, super supportive and encouraging, but very tough. Like tough as far as like, you have to work hard. Like you don't get to be lazy. You have to work hard. You have to put responsibility for yourself, and there are no excuses. So she kind of had it tough. Now, growing up on a horse farm is really what hounded all that in, right? Like, at least I did have an excuse, I'm going to say, to be that tough. Like, horses eat before you eat. I don't care, period. Like, they get taken care of. Then you can think about yourself, like, if stalls have to be cleaned, it doesn't matter what time it is when you get done. They are cleaned. Like you don't get to just stop because you want to. And she also got to see it. Like she learned, like if we had a sick horse, there were times I was up all night because they came first. So their care and my responsibility to them was the most important thing. And most of them were client horses. So of course, there's a little different responsibility there, but she saw that and she learned like horses get fed at this time. It doesn't matter if you're tired, doesn't matter if you're sick. Like they have to be fed and taken care of. And these things have to be done. And it doesn't matter if you're exhausted, it doesn't matter if you're hungry, and I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it was like responsibility and putting someone else before your needs was something she learned at a very young age, that if you're responsible for someone else, their needs are important. Now, of course, she learned to balance though, because I don't ever want anyone to feel like they have to give themselves away and take care of somebody before them. However, I feel differently when it's animals because they can't take care of themselves. So but she still learned that responsibility of like, if you commit to do something, there is no like, oh, I was too tired, I couldn't get up, I forgot, well, I just wasn't feeling good. Like, nope, nope. She will. I didn't feel the same way back then. Her saying was suck it up. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, I was pretty bad. Um, I think she would probably tell you my go-to. So we do a lot of joking, right? To have fun. Talking about like can't talk now, doing bad dog, right? Jokes, right? And so I used to always joke with her and be like, there's no crying in horses because all I could think of is there's no crying in baseball. So, like, I would try to make it funny, but a lot of times I was really serious. So, but all right, ladies, I have enjoyed just getting to hang out with you today. Oh, it was so nice. Actually, needed a little break. Not going to lie. It was awesome. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I'm going to let you go since we've been on here almost an hour and a half for our quick caffeine break. But keep an eye out. Next Wednesday, I'm going to be jumping on here live for our cup of coffee with Kristin from Windrock Park from the extravaganza. I cannot guarantee how great service will be, but I will be on there. So remember, cup of coffee with Kristin every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. We have a great lineup coming for you next week. It's going to be kind of a behind the scenes, jumping in at the extravaganza. Then we're going to be moving into how to pick the right shot for you. I'm going to be adding in the backspacing and offset as we go forward. And we have a lot of amazing education coming forward for you. So I can't wait to see you again next week. I hope, and I know some of our ladies who are up in Wisconsin are having terrible weather, but I hope for everyone else, and I hope for you it gets warmer, but I hope for everyone else you get to get out there and enjoy the sun. Take in the rays, enjoy the feel of the heat and the sunlight. Get out there and enjoy spring, even if it's just for a short time, and celebrate. We are in regrowth, we are in forward movement. We are in, to me, one of the most exciting times of the year because it's now about the doing, right? We're not hibernating anymore. We can get out. We can feel better. The sun is out. It's light longer. All of those things. So enjoy it and keep that in mind as you move forward through this weekend. Really take a second to appreciate that, we're in spring. That means it is time to hit the ground running. There's so many things I can do. I'm unstoppable, just like the animals coming out of hibernation. So follow their lead and tell yourself you can do anything this spring. You just got to get out there. Got to do it. All right. Yes, I will see you. It's Windrock. I can't wait. Can't wait. All right, ladies, I will see you again soon. Don't forget, mark your calendar every Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here for a cup of coffee with Kristin. All right, have a fantastic day, ladies, and weekend. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for jumping on here and spending so much time with me. You are awesome. Bye, everybody.